Welcome to number 5 video. Yes, so let's begin. A little bit less of a grand entrance than before. Can we see Corey? Yeah, no. It's hard to see past my big head. Alright, so today we are here to discuss the movie I Heart Huckabees, heart being an emoji for love. That has nothing to do with anything. So, we're going to get right into it. The first question is, Team Bernie or Team, how do you say her name?
Vauban?
Vauban, yeah. No, I think they said that like that. Vauban. Team Bernie or Team Vauban? Go. Who's on Team Bernie?
Me. Yeah, I'm on Team Bernie.
I'm definitely Team Vauban.
I'd say Vauban too.
Alright, we got a clear split. So, explain to me what Team Bernie is.
The existentialism where it's everything's connected and like everything's good and happy. It's kind of, right?
Why would it be happy? Because they're connected.
Just because everything just makes sense with each other. Everything happens for a reason.
I like the example that he used in the movie of the blanket where you have like, I'm here, Josh is here, that smoothie's here, the phone's here, the notebook is here, and everything's connected.
But don't you see how ridiculous it is? So how are you this smoothie? You're all the same. It's all equal. That's why, like, I definitely don't side with the more craziness of Vauban, but at the same time, I just feel like Team Bernie's is a little bit too ridiculous, because how can I be the equivalent of that smoothie, or the equivalent of a piece of dirt on the ground?
I don't think it's that you're equivalent to that smoothie, but the smoothie is equivalent to you.
Oh, okay. How is that any different? I don't.
It's up to your standards. You're not dropping down to smoothie's level.
Oh, okay.
So you're bringing the smoothie up to his?
Yeah.
Oh.
I just like
treat everything like you would like to be treated.
When you look at like Vauban's as opposed to that one, it's a little less like comparing yourself to other things, but at the same time it creates no meaning. But if you think about it, when you have no meaning for anything, you stress out a lot less, because at the end you're like, why does it matter? So you could definitely still like I'm just doing this because it pleases me, because I think it's a lot about self-indulgence, because it's like nothing matters, so why not just do whatever you want. So nothing matters if you think about like the daily stresses you have, and just like here comes a test, I'm stressing out about that. If you take on the philosophy like that, you're gonna be like, it's all good. It doesn't mean anything.
Right? That just, I feel like that sets you up for not being successful, like not caring about anything, you know.
Well, it could definitely set you up for like some big disaster, because you stop caring about tests, you're gonna start failing tests, you're gonna drop out of college. But at the same time, if you equivalent or make the equivalent of this test is connected to any other test I've taken in high school, I'm gonna study just as much as I would for this, because like, oh, everything's connected.
Right.
And then you start messing stuff up there. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think they're both a little outrageous, because like when you look at Vauban, even though I would side more with her, I just feel like a lot of people stress so much about so many little things that don't matter. So in equating that to like everything to not mattering, it makes it a lot easier to throw those little things away. Because like, I watched a video once. It was about a dude. He came home from work, and he's just having a boring adult life. He realized he didn't buy groceries, and then he has to go sit in traffic. He's all pissed about the traffic. He gets to the grocery store. They don't have the food he wants. And he has to wait in line, and he's just getting more pissed. But what he's not realizing is there's a whole bigger picture to look at. And it's like, yeah, but I have money for food. Like, but instead he was focusing on everything horrible happening instead of all the positives. So with that, with Vauban's, it would feel, I guess you wouldn't even look at the big picture, but you wouldn't stress as much. You definitely would just kind of like just throw everything away. Just let everything in your head just go. And I feel like it could like really set some people free. I don't know. What are you thinking? Like you said with Vauban.
Well, when Wax brought up the whole thing of Christianity in
Mhm.
class, and he's like, if you go with Bernie, how like Christianity has like no meaning essentially, and for
Mhm.
me like that's not true because like Christianity is a pretty big part of my life, I guess.
Mhm. But with Vauban, it would have no meaning either, though.
But it's more of the fact of like Bernie, there's no meaning, but there with Vauban, there's like certain things
You just
that
do
matter.
it. Well, yeah, I guess when you look at Vauban's, nothing has meaning, so like you could see that she was just, and she said you can't avoid your desires, like that'll always pull you in. So you would just kind of do whatever you desire, because it wouldn't matter, because even if there was repercussions, there's no meaning to that. There's no meaning to anything, so they could just let themselves go and hit themselves in the face if they wanted to. That's what they felt like they wanted to do. So I guess with the way you look at it, you could practice Christianity because that's just how you feel. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It's just something I feel or desire, and it's a little less than everything being connected, because then Christianity and atheism are equivalent. They're connected. Like, I don't know. You want to explain their side of Bernie's a little bit more, Corey? Or?
I mean, like, the thing with everything is connected again. It's like all of us humans on Earth are connected to each other. Like the thing with like like a phone being connected to a person and stuff like that. That's where it gets hard to understand.
Mm-hmm.
But at least it's not like Team Vauban where nothing matters. So essentially, your life doesn't matter at all. Why even be living at that point? We might as well just all die if nothing matters. But with Bernie, he's saying that stuff still matters.
Mm-hmm.
We're just all connected with each other.
Right.
So.
I guess I could see that point too. And there's a whole point we missed about the whole pain thing. She talked about how like you have to experience pain, or she burned to the frickin' what do you call it? Jet skis.
Oh yeah.
Everything is destruction. Everything is just absolutely to the end, pushing it to the end. As opposed to like like you said with Bernie's, it's like I think when you take a philosophy like that, you can maybe be a little bit more kinder to people, but at the same time they're ignoring all of the pain and suffering and that I've seen so many things in my life that just makes me not want to trust humanity, and I think that's why I stayed away from the whole connected thing.
You have more feeling with Vauban compared to Bernie, cause like I don't know, I feel like Bernie there's like nothing, where like Vauban I feel like you feel more.
Right. I guess how do you mean by feel? What do you mean?
Well, like if everything's on the same level for Bernie, like you're not gonna change. So you're gonna have like the same feeling throughout. Whereas like Vauban, like you get to do what you want, like you do your desires, so you get to like feel the differences of whatever's happening.
Mm-hmm. Just kind of live in the moment, because everything just doesn't mean anything anyway, so you might as well just do whatever, you know what I mean? You can just feel things, out as they go. I guess we could see that. But I guess we could all agree that they're both pretty extreme.
Yeah.
They're both on the far edges, and that's why I like at the end of the movie where he does that whole speech to them. It's like you believe in just pain and suffering and everything else, and you guys are way too bright. You're just love everybody. But how they were all connected was that they all experienced pain together, and that was like the face thing. That was pretty cool. I like that because it's like, yes, pain and suffering exists, and we have to experience pain, but that doesn't mean nothing, doesn't mean anything. And at the same time, not everything is connected, but there's definitely some experiences that we all can share. So I like that the middle ground they kind of give you at the end. It definitely let you experience a little bit of everything. And then what about the other guy, not the blonde guy, Huckabee's CEO? It's really interesting once you kind of realize, like, why do you think he got so? Kind of brings us into a little bit of the next question. Why do you think he gets so upset
I think honestly he was so like caught up into like himself and like he wanted to please others, but then he realized like, or once they made him realize that he's just like annoying in a sense,
Mhm.
that it really like set him back.
Yeah, for sure. You were talking about it earlier, what kind of made you think he got so?
Yeah, he just like realized that that story was himself, and
Yeah.
people only liked him for his stories.
Which brings us into our second question, which will be the brunt of our video. I think the most important question. It's kind of taking all these ideas we're learning, and that how am I not myself question. And I think we just start off with like talking about him, like you said, he realized that he was just the story.
Yeah.
Explain that a little bit more, maybe.
Like the only reason that he was successful is because people liked him, and people only liked him because the stories he would tell. That's what I got out of it.
No, yeah, it was very interesting because once he stopped telling that story, he tried to like work with them, and then they were like, just tell us the story.
Yeah.
And that was horrible. So.
Yeah, they weren't really for his ideas or like what he was actually thinking.
Mhm. And then he started thinking about it, and like trying to tell that story made him physically sick because he just realized that this just
Disgusted himself.
disgusts myself because I'm just an object. I'm just a story. And that's all you want me for. And you tried to tell the story, you just couldn't. So obviously that's a little bit extreme. I don't think anybody would get physically sick, but Walks asked us to talk about our personal stories. So somebody bring some stories.
Jared.
Jared, you got some stories for us?
Well, the story that I thought of, like right away, was one time me and my roommate were driving back from Sioux Falls. We had just got his new puppy,
Mhm.
and we had a deer on the road, and it just like the deer was just laying in the middle of the road, and it was kind of still kicking, and we're like, well, we got to put it out of its misery. So he like reached over and he had a knife on him, and he like slit its throat. And as soon as he did that, the deer jumped up and like started running sideways at him, and just freaked out and like went and died in the ditch. So anyways, that story is like just kind of like how we have a bunch of stories that are just crazy like that. And we try to tell people that just so they know what they're kind of getting themselves into before they start hanging out with us, you know.
So what do you think that says about yourself by telling that story so much? Like why do you think you tell it, I guess is the question that Walks wants us to propose.
Well, for one, it's entertaining.
Well, yeah. There's definitely entertainment value.
Right. And it's just crazy stuff happens to me and my friends, I guess. That's kind of what we try to get across.
Does it kind of get off like that? We're used to messing with that. Because are you a hunter yourself?
I hunt a little bit.
Yeah.
Not much.
I just said this because of the camo.
Right.
Camo on and stuff.
It's
but yeah.
deceiving.
Yeah, I know. But you're used to being around those sort of things. So.
Yeah, it's just out doing stuff, tearing through cornfields and trucks and.
Kind of says a little bit about like how you would want an animal not to suffer, so they suffer too.
Right.
I don't know, just as an outside perspective, I'm just kind of looking into another story and
Well,
see
I
like.
suppose.
Cause
you don't want to just leave it lay there.
No, yeah, like, cause like, beyond, cause like I think about I thought about a bunch of stories that I told, and I thought about like every time I was like, well, it's just for entertainment value, but the more and more I started thinking about it, I go, well, it kind of says more than just that about me, you know what I mean? Like you said, like our friends, we do stuff like this, or how you treat a suffering animal.
Because not many people are gonna get out of a truck and go slit a deer's throat. You know?
Right.
It almost like gets to the point now, like thinking about it, like I don't know, maybe this is just for me, but I feel like I get annoying now, like even though you've never told someone the story before, but like you repeating yourself.
I've realized there's stories that I tell all the time, like all the time.
And I get annoyed with myself.
Corey has heard my knee break story probably 15 times, and I'm not even joking. And I realized, so like, I'll tell my story. So Walks has heard this about 20 times too. He asks me to tell it sometimes, and I realize that I tell this story so much. And what it is I'm in a dance class I'm in theater. And there's this thing you have to do, this jump kick thing. So I ran, I jumped, you kick your one leg out, and then another bend back, and I landed it just fine. And then I went to stand up, and this knee went this way, and my body went that way. And it went, and it popped out of place, so it was just hanging there, and I didn't realize it. And I fell to the ground, and I went into shock right away, no pain. So I tried to stand up, and the bottom leg's just hanging, so I fell back down without even realizing it, and I looked at my leg, and I freaked out. So then I crawled over to the edge, and I held it up, and it's just hanging there. And I'm like, somebody just pop it back into place for me. Just pop it back into place, that's all I need. So they all YouTube the video to see if they could do it, and they realize, we're not gonna do that. So then they take me into the ER, and I have to wait 30 minutes, cause they're so busy that day, and then I start to feel the pain. Like, it starts to kick in finally. And I'm in the worst pain ever. And the doctor comes in and he goes, hi, how you doing, what do we got today? And then he goes, and then he snaps it into place.
Oh.
Yeah. And I scream at the top of my lungs. It was the worst pain I've ever felt. And then he goes, try to bend your knee down. I couldn't physically do it. So he said, I'll be back he took off this needle, it's probably that long, shoved it in behind the kneecap and squirted it, and he goes, I'm gonna come back in a half an hour. That hurt like hell too.
Yeah. Was that
And
corduroys
yeah, something else in it too, yeah. And I'm back in a half an hour. If you can't move it still, we have an issue. So he comes back, and I still can't move it. And he goes, it might be a meniscus, we get an ER. It turns out I ripped the meniscus, and it flapped between the two joints, causing me not to be able to move my knee.
You pinched it in there when you...
Yeah, when he snapped it back in. So then they had to go remove it, and they were like, we only need to take out a little bit. And then after the surgery, it turns out they took out like almost all of it. There's like no meniscus in my left knee. So I tell this story all the time, and I realize most of the face of it is that I just tell it because people realize I'm accident prone, which is usually how it comes up, and just to gross people out. I just kind of get a pleasure out of people going, ew. But what I realize is like that question, how am I not myself? I use the story, like I started thinking about it more and more because like I never actually like put in depth of like why do I tell this story other than those two things. And like there's at face value that's what it is, but like there's so much more of a deeper meaning to it. I think I tell the story a lot to kind of give this persona of myself of like I've been through a lot and I'm here, you know what I mean? I'm trying to create this image of myself that I don't necessarily believe, like that I can take a lot of stuff, even though like really that was like really hard for me, and like I broke down like a baby. But on the face, like it's like wow, that was really tough, and you're still kicking and you're still running and stuff. But you know what I mean? Yeah, kicking. But I don't. When I tell the story, the question, how am I not myself? I'm not myself because I'm trying to create this persona of myself that isn't necessarily true by telling the story. And I started thinking about all the stories I tell, and they're usually outrageous stories of things that just happened to me that aren't normal. And every time I thought about it, it's these stories that aren't necessarily normal to myself. There's something crazy that's happened to me. Right. So in telling those stories, it's not, I'm giving out this persona that these kind of things happen to me all the time.
Right.
More or less, they happened to happen. It was a surprise event. So I'm trying to give off a persona of myself of an idea that I do all these crazy different things, and really I don't. And I think that's when I become not myself, because I'm trying to give an image to other people. I'm trying to make other people like me through telling a story. And like actually going in to think about it really made me so self-conscious, and I'm like, why am I searching for people's approval so much?
Yeah.
But I honestly was, and like that's why I tell the story.
Random question. When you broke your knee or whatever, was it just like a practice, or were you actually performing?
No, it was a practice. It was a class.
Do you think like the reaction of people would have been different if like other people would have actually been watching?
Yeah.
Especially if you see
'Cause,
you
like,
stand up and fall over again.
And to think
Oh,
that
yeah.
like they might not know, like granted they're gonna understand that your leg's not normal, but like
Right.
for them to know that like that's not part of the actual performance.
Right. Right. That's something else, like, I guess I left it out when I told you. Sometimes I tell the story and I'm just in a class, and I did it, because I broke my knee a day after the census day, and the register wouldn't let me drop the class, and I can't pass the class. It's impossible with a broken knee. So you can't. It's a physical based class, and I finally got him to drop in. I joined walks to speech class, but yeah, that's interesting to think.
Cause like when you think of it at a different perspective, like if you were to think of someone who had like an amputated leg, I mean if they would have done that, like that would have been part of the whole performance of like that to actually happen.
Mm.
To like add effect to the.
That would be interesting. That's an interesting perspective of it. Yeah.
Granted, like I know you don't have an amputated leg.
Yeah.
Like people in the audience might not have known.
People are like, oh my god. Yeah.
It would have been better if it was an amputee. And then they were just like, oh, just kidding.
So that's how I answer the question, how am I not myself? I don't become myself because I use these stories, and like I said, every one of them that I tell is an outrageous story of something that's randomly, and like, I have a lot of outrageous stories, but we all do. We all have these things, that's a deer happened to be laying in the middle of the road. All these stories, and I go to them to give this idea of myself that isn't necessarily normal, and it's not me. So, what do you tell Corey? You're looking for a story.
In high school, my best friend's dad was a cop, and he was the like police officer that was at this high school all the time. And the high school in Watertown has a big fallout shelter underneath it.
Mm.
And so one day we got the idea that we were gonna just go down there with some spray paint and graffiti the walls and and steal his dad's keys. So he went into his dad's office, took his keys, and we went down to the fallout shelter, and we were going to go spray paint, and we were just walking around down there, and we found like some really sketchy stuff down there, first of all, and then we ended up going like too far into this spot that we couldn't get out of, so he had to call his dad to come down and get us out of there, which it was illegal for us to be down there anyway, and his dad didn't mind that we were down there because he said that, you know, high schoolers are gonna do crazy stuff anyway, but I don't know, I guess it's not like the craziest story in the world, but that's like the story I always tell
No,
for like how am I not myself.
I've heard that story before, yeah.
But it's like, how am I not myself, because I normally don't do anything illegal.
No, yeah, it's like,
and then
it's weird because if you know Corey really well, it's like, oh my god, I can't believe you did that.
But yeah, that's.
So do you tell it that to like some people, like on like, if you're at like a gathering, well not necessarily
first meeting.
Not like first meeting, but like people that don't necessarily like know you really, really well.
Yeah.
Like it's a story you might go to.
Yeah.
Definitely creates a conversation, like what were you thinking, like, it kinda gives them like, I don't know, just for me, it gives you that bad boy persona.
Did you know what you were gonna do as graffiti, or?
No. No, we didn't know.
Corey Clapp. Don't write your name. Oh, shit. Put your address on there. You wanna put your address down?
Date and time.
Yeah, phone number.
No, it's interesting because like you said, why do you think you do that though? Like why would you tell that story?
I don't know, just to show, that I guess like the bad boy persona thing.
Yeah.
Or just to like I do these crazy things to like impress people or whatever, but I actually don't do anything like that.
Oh, right. Last but not least, tell us your story.
Well, I was younger, and we had this go-kart, and it didn't have brakes. So I would try to go out and ride it every single day, and Mom's like, no, like you can't ride it, whatever. It's like, okay. Well, one time my sister's like, let's go out there. So my sister's 4 years older, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So we got out to the shed, and like we kept the door shut, and it like stays in one spot unless you hit the gas. Well, Lexi started it, and she opened the door, and I hit the gas, and I couldn't stop. And we have like this circle in our driveway, so I was literally driving in a circle, yelling that I can't stop. Well, then it got to the point where like in the middle of that circle is grass, and my mom was mowing, so she got off the lawnmower, and she started running after me. Lexi was running after me, and then still couldn't stop me. So my oldest brother and then the second oldest brother came out, and they were like all four of them were running around in a circle after me, not realizing that like one of them should just stop and wait for me to come back around. But like once they like finally caught me, they like shut it off, and my mom just started like yelling at me, like nonstop. So then I tried blaming my sister, and then she started blaming. So it was pretty much this like big huge mess of like me not being able to stop, and then blaming each other, and
Mhm.
yeah.
So.
But like to this day, like the go-kart gets brought up, like you can hear all my siblings. They'll just yell, I can't stop, because that's what I screamed
So
when I was driving in that circle.
do you become the go-kart girl, more or less?
Pretty much, that go-kart is still in our shed. Still does not have brakes.
So the question becomes, how are you not yourself in telling that story?
Like, I used to tell people that story a lot, but then I realized it was more like, I was more emotionally embarrassed about what I did.
Mhm.
But then like other people didn't actually see why I thought it was funny.
Gotcha.
It's like I told it because it like makes me laugh thinking about it now, because I can picture it, but like I don't know, I can't really explain it in a way that other people know what I was going through.
Right, right. So, I look at that and like I hear like the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear a story like that is like, then the going joke is you're the go-kart girl. Cause like in high school, I did another one of those crazy stories. I dressed up like Dora for a skit my junior year. And I became the guy that dressed up like Dora. I was no longer Josh. I was that funny guy that dressed up like Dora. So I no longer I was not myself anymore. Just like in your story, you're no longer yourself. You're the go-kart girl. It takes everything out. It's like that's not me though. That's not you. You know what I mean? That's a crazy story. And that's like upon talking to us all of us, I think that's where it really comes down to with those stories is you're not yourself because you're telling a crazy instance of yourself.
And it's like
It's a
something.
funny story, yeah. You go ahead.
It's only like a fraction of your life. It's this much of your life. I mean,
Yeah.
why even bother to tell it, you know?
Mine is more the fact of like I hated that go-kart from the day we got it, because we had it, didn't even have it a day, and like the two younger of my three brothers were out riding it and they rolled it.
Uh-huh.
So like from day one I was scared of it. But then my sister's like, just try it, it's not that bad. Like I knew it didn't have brakes, but I didn't think once you hit the gas, like it keeps going faster and it doesn't slow down, and like there's no way to get it to stop unless you hit a switch in the back. But I was scared for my life, and I was like shaking as I was holding the wheel.
Oh,
But I was
jeez.
like too scared to turn back and hit a switch.
Oh man. Yeah. So, like you said, it's just such a fraction, just a little part of your life. But it's a story like my knee one that I'll tell over and over again. Part of it's the gross out factor, but part of it is just I enjoy telling that story, and I think it's going to be hard for me to tell that story again because now I started thinking about it. I'm just doing this to make people like me. I'm not thinking about myself anymore. I'm the guy that broke his knee, the guy that cut the throat of the deer, the badass over here, the go-kart girl. They're such fractions, just tiny pieces of ourselves. The Shania story in the I Heart Huckabees. It was just a fraction of his life, and it was a funny story that he had.
But when you think back on it now, like for me, like that story really isn't relevant to like my life at all.
No, yeah, just like my knee story or the Dora one, like nothing to do with me like anymore. It's just something that happened, something crazy, outrageous.
And I barely hunt, so.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
barely hunt, but you gave off a story
Yeah.
about a deer, and it sounds like to me right away, I was like, oh, he's a hunter. He's got camo on. He knew to put the deer out of its misery. But you barely hunt, so it gives off this persona of you without you even realizing it.
Right.
And even when I started thinking about it, I didn't realize it, but I guess kind of subconsciously I did. Like I tell these stories to please others. I'm not myself. I'm just trying to make everybody else like me, like something about me that's not necessarily me, instead of just being myself. And I think that's why in I Heart Huckabees he just puked, because he realized that he was a boring, boring person without his story. Nobody at the place liked him unless he told that story. So, I don't know. That's how we're not ourselves. That's how I would answer that. Any last thoughts? Anybody else? Corey? Badass Corey. He's gonna go spray paint the sewers.
Get into the tunnels here at Northern and do it.
You get arrested for that. Lene? Anything else, Jared?
Not really.
Well, I think that concludes our discussion. It running in about 30 minutes and 32 seconds. God, we're good. So, we better get the points for the full time. Thank you.